Kobad Mobid Gina, music manager and all-round good man, last seen on a motorcycle in Dahanu, has programmed some Beatles. That's the retro pick of the show. The only 70s or 60s track you're going to get through the show, okay, so get used to it. Okay, streaming live across the nation online on www.onecast.in, that's numeral 1cast.in. Still on traditional radio sets on 94.3 FM on the FM band, Radio 1. And of course, now, only if you're not driving in the backseat of a chauffeur-driven car, or you're in the radio taxi, a backseat of a radio taxi, or office or home without a radio set, we're streaming live video on facebook.com/radio1.mum. That's radio1.mum. My guest of the day.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishikesh. Radio 1.
This bald genius, Cyrus Oshidar, otherwise known as the guiding light of MTV back in the day, now runs this counterculture thing called 101 India, and he's going to talk to me through the rest of the hour. Some of it might make sense. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, Mr. Hrishikesh. Good to see you.
Yeah,
double the size.
I'm pleased to know. I'm pleased to know that you're not mumbling as much.
I'm trying my best. I'm on radio.
Well, I have some gratitude to pay here. First and foremost, back in the day when I started doing voiceovers for you, it was all about sounding all sexy and dulcet and bass, and you're the first guy. You rogue. You're the first guy who turned around and said, shriek, high pitch your voice, shrill, make it shrill, break it, don't afraid to sound crap. And that's something I've always remembered, unless, clients want you to do this.
No, clients want the opposite, still want you to sound like you're in middle class England. But no, for MTV in those days, it was all about, we wanted the voiceover to be different. It was about the street. It was about what we call desi cool. So, it was more like, that kind of a thing. So it was bringing those, if you close your eyes in India, you can hear India. Yeah. So, and we never think about that. So on TV, that was absent. You could actually listen to voices on TV and think, where am I? Is this India? Because they didn't sound like India. It was, what are the tires and all that kind of stuff. So that's why when we did it at MTV, it was more like, hey, dekhne yaar, that kind of thing.
And I noticed at the time that you were doing a lot of voiceovers. Either it was nepotism and corruption, or it was just you with the freebie.
See, it was a little bit of nepotism and corruption, because we're very good at that. But no, it was because it was cheap.
Yeah, it was, of course. Yeah.
Nobody to pay. So I ended up doing a lot of animation. I ended up doing the voice of a guy called Poga, who was this sort of animated yogi who could do strange things with his body, which we can't talk about on radio. A guy called Gaseous Clay, who could do strange things with other part of his body. He was a little breaking wind thingy. So I ended up doing a lot of that, and it was fun.
So what was your favorite? Was the Liftman your favorite? Was Gaseous Clay your favorite?
Well, the Liftman was my voice as well, and it was in the lift in my building.
Which is what, Parsi Colony?
It's Gamade Colony. So it was the building at the edge of Gamade Colony, but it had those old lift doors. It's like a cage, So he was supposed to jump out like a sort of caged animal and start screaming. And he stood for hating MTV. And clients at that time, and generally in advertising, you don't come out hating a brand. So it was very the opposite of what was expected. And I think that's why it worked. And the story behind the Liftman was actually that the one morning I was driving my little company car, and there was an old Parsi gentleman walking down, and I think he twitched at the wrong minute and his elbow hit my car. So when I paused for a minute, he came around the side and he was screaming at me. I can't tell you what he said. But as he was screaming, I put the window down and his teeth almost fell out into my lap. He had these false teeth. So, this is a true story. So I had this image of these sort of teeth flying out and landing pretty much on my lap. And when I got to work that day, this gentleman came in and he had the most ridiculous teeth. So and that was the Liftman. So I made him appear angry, and that's why actually he was born. He was just born in that morning out of an incident at the edge of my Parsi colony.
Well, you are an honorable man, or at least you fool people. You're no Weinstein.
No.
But I do remember at the time that you used to get all these massages from your OAP, your on-air promotions team. And I still, if I bump into, if Komal or Priyanka Bangia or, Ruchi, the first thing I ask them is, how good are your massage skills and things like that. The knot in the neck, Cyrus is knot in the neck being eased out.
Yeah. Well, those days are long gone, my friend. But Yeah.
But it must have been tough on people in the office. I mean, there's the two Cyruses, and then it became a third Cyrus.
There were three.
So, there was yourself, there was Brocha, and then eventually Sahu joined the mix. I mean, though he's more a Delhiite than a Babaji, if you look at it. So, things couldn't have been short of exciting or short of chaotic.
It was a very different time. And I think at that time, there was, there was a tremendous willingness to want to try new things and do new work. It was a fresh energy. It was not the sort of jaded media. There was a newness about MTV. There was a newness about all the things we did. There was a fresh voice to youth culture. Young people being given a voice, etc., etc. So I think those days were very, from that perspective, I think that was a very fresh time. And it was a good time for youth culture. And it was the starting of that.
When we come back right after this song in a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about 101 India. And to me, it's reinvented youth culture all over again. Cyrus Oshidar. More right after this.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishikesh.
Okay, back live with Cyrus Oshidar, 11 minutes past 9 a.m. We're talking 101 India with the head honcho of 101 India. So you're really good at this counterculture thing, man. It's almost as though you gravitate towards the road less traveled, almost automatically. Yeah. So what were you doing before 101 India happened? Were you freelancing? Were you doing ad films?
I sort of wanted to break from the whole corporate thing. And so we set up a small ad agency called Bawa Broadcasting. We tried to call it the BBC, but that didn't work for long. So we were doing sort of brand solutions, but that kind of stuff tends to get, it's the same old stuff after a while. So then we had an opportunity. The founder of MTV hooked me up with these people in the Middle East. Went to Afghanistan for a while because they had radio channels there, helped them rebrand it. And then when we came back, we were, said that, okay, we have some money, we'd like to fund something, we'd like to start something in the digital space. Can you create a brand? And so I wanted to create something that was a little left of center, not, the same movie masti kind of stuff. And so we created 101 India, and I think, it's going well.
Of course it is. I have to say this, that amongst your, the little bit of radio work that you've done, I remember telling Pooja Shetty at Imagica, saying that those commercials you created, for Imagica were just a class apart, man. They will stand the test of time. I hope you send them for these awards and things like that.
No, I don't.
And you just don't go for Pro Max and Goa just to have fun. You don't send them the awards at all.
No.
Why? You'd win hands down. Yeah, we do actually.
Too much money. No, this whole awards culture is a bit of a disease. I think at the end of the day, we end up patting ourselves on the back all the time for everything, and it's a bit nauseating. There's an award for everything. There's an award for accountants. There's an award for bricklayers. So, how much time can we spend just telling each other how great we are? I think, work speaks for itself, and these things become political and these things become silly. So we try, we do enter because at some level you need to say, mere ko award mila. But for me personally, I think, you have to be happy with your work and what you're churning out.
Correct. So, 101 India, I have it open right here in front of me. So, 101india.com has this unbelievable thing. Greyhound racing in the Punjab. If you want to see a video of that, we're live. We're streaming a live video only if you're not driving at HRISHIKAY. That's facebook.com/HRISHIKAY. Still streaming online audio across the nation on www.onecast.in, numeral 1cast.in. So this stuff happens. Greyhound racing in the Punjab.
Yeah, but this is, that's what I'm saying. So, our country is so rich and so diverse, even though we're not proud of it these days, perhaps enough. But I think this tremendous diversity and cultural diversity and of all kinds of things happening, legal, illegal, bare illegal, is what makes India such a rich place for at least for me. So when one of the boys did the research, Zulfi, and he said, Cyrus, there's this greyhound racing happening in Punjab. I was like, wow. So this is a leftover of coursing from British times where they used a real live rabbit, and that was banned because obviously cruelty to animals. So what these guys have, in a good old Jugadi way, they basically use a rabbit skin wrapped around a little device and put it on a tin thali, and then they attached it to a motorbike and they move along. So it has the impression of this rabbit moving, and they get imported in local greyhounds to race behind it. And this thing has become, a local subculture in and around Ludhiana. So, and these things are broadcast live all across the world from these local sort of Punjabi channels. So this kind of stuff exists, and for me, finding this and Dr. VC to reach out to young people because he's a young host, I think that's where this is all
Yeah, and the Lord knows that we need this in these troubled times. The Muslim gatekeepers of the Jewish synagogue, 101 Heartland.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that, man?
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and I think what we hear on, I think right now media is going through some sort of reality show disease. So I think what we try to do is tell these stories just simply. There's no shouting and screaming. It's just, this is what it is. These are who these people are. And by the way, this is happening at the same time as all this other ugly stuff. So for us, it's not a political message. It's a human message. It's about the people of this country. And I think Heartland is about the people of this country and their stories. And there's incredible people doing incredible things. So we'd like to cover that. So that's one of the sort of IPs or shows that you if you like, Heartland, which is basically where there's a gentleman who's a reformed sort of guy who used to live by the gun and is now teaching wrestling to young girls and taking them to world championships. So there's a lot of these people, amazingly inspiring people who've changed their lives or just doing incredible things regardless, even without changing their lives. So we cover some of those in our people stories. But for the rest of, we even look at, the underworld. Dinner with the Dons, as I said, is a food show, but it's about the underworld. We go and meet these guys because who knows the streets and therefore street food better than these guys on the streets. So we even went to the Chambal because of the old romance of that. It's like the Robin Hood of India. And that's actually one of our most popular shows, Dinner with the Dons. And it's kind of cool, it's edgy, it's young, and it's about seeing, seeing the dark side or the other side of things as well. And I think, a lot of people say, oh, you're glamorizing crime. We're not glamorizing crime. We're just saying, look, this is part of who we are. This is part of the culture we live in. This is part of the country we live in. These people are here. You can't ignore them. Yeah, and they also have a voice. And let's hear what they have to say and get a counter perspective. And that's all it is. And then it's about the food of that region. So it's...
And I'm pleased to know that, that you're still doing some mainstream television, which is terrestrial television, because Rohit Vaid called me the other day and he's doing a show called Battle Ops, which I'm voicing for him incidentally.
Yes.
And he said it's 101.
Yeah.
So I said, isn't that Cyrus Oshidar's company? So he says, yeah, we're doing a bit of television here.
Rohit Vaid's company too. But so I think that's the production side. So our business is split into the
talk to me about that. Yeah,
the channel, which is 101india.com, the agency side, which is the branded content side, which is the money, and the production side, which is what Rohit heads and produces. And for that, we produce for anyone. So we've done a whole bunch of shows around the army for Discovery. So that kind of keeps the home fires burning because it's regular production and we need that. And they also do some of the production for the platform, obviously. So the production pit does production for the platform and sort of makes some of the money for us.
Interesting. It's 18 minutes past 9 a.m. We're going to take some messages and come back with Cyrus Oshidar. You won't hear us for less than 10 minutes, but keep yourself busy. One space your comment or question and name to 53650. 53650 is the in-studio SMS line. If you fancy social networking, then get on and go to the search bar, type HRISHIKAY, will pop up. You could tweet out or post in the timeline inbox your question or comment, and facebook.com/radio1.mum, our official page. There again, drop a comment or question on the timeline or inbox for Cyrus Oshidar. Happy to bring it up on air. So see you in a bit. Marchi by Rome wasn't built in a day. 9:31. Absolutely live. Streaming live audio across the nation on www.onecast.in, numeral 1cast.in. Now, only if you're not driving, statutory warning. We're streaming live video on Twitter as well as Periscope at HRISHIKAY. We've tagged Cyrus Oshidar, Sai Baba 1, and of course 101 India, and in conversation with him, and still on traditional radio sets on 94.3 on the FM band. More chat.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishikesh.
So man, I'm really happy that the platform, which is 101 India. Go check it out. 101india.com has some really interesting sports stories. The fact that Calcutta or Kolkata has all these addas where there's chess, there's carom, there's card gamers. So talk to me about the sports section. That to me is of particular interest. I'm a huge sports fanatic.
See, everything that 101 India does, or at least is slightly left of center. Correct. So if we're doing Bollywood, we won't look at the big celebrities, and we'll look at the extras, we'll look at the lives of the duplicates. So the same thing with sports. The sort of sports we cover would be like greyhound racing. It may be like carom. It may be pigeon racing. So we look at, as just generally as a brand, we look at all the stuff that people haven't really been looking at and try and sort of make it relevant to young people. Because I think we're very interested in if you stand in the middle of the street and you point, 5 people will look at where you're pointing with you.
The money story.
So we are generally interested in things, or inquisitive or nosy or whatever it is. So I think there's not enough people talking about this. I think media has become one big reality show. News channels have become just a shouting match. So I think there's a sense of, just get that away from me. Yeah. And so these little stories of interesting people doing interesting things, even whether it's sport or Bollywood, in terms of a brand, you'll find the same kind of a thing coming from us. So that's why we pick carom, that's why we pick greyhound racing, that's why we pick the smaller kind of sports. We don't get access to cricket or football, we don't get the money. So we'll do a story about, the children of the sex workers in Sonagachi who made it to a football team and went abroad. A small inspiring story which does well on Facebook.
Also, there's Mandeep Kaur, the junior world boxing champion. How many of you know that tucked away in Ludhiana, in one corner of Ludhiana, this unassuming girl, there's a wonderful story on her. And of course, the sports section is highlighted by this wonderful couple who really are the first couple of weightlifting. How cool is that? They're fully ripped and things like that. So what's your favorite section, man? I mean, I know it's difficult. It's like asking a father.
I kind of like the Dinner with the Don stuff. I find the slightly edgier stuff is from just a pure interest point of view, because I'm always interested in, I like people who are not in the mainstream. They have more to say, they have a different perspective, they're more interesting lives, what they're doing is more fascinating. So for me, when we go and do something like Dinner with the Dons or Food Show with the Underworld, it is instantly recognizable. It does good things. Not only is it interesting, it also works well in creating a brand. So for me, I like those kind of layered properties, which almost seem to be at odds with each other, or people think ye kya hai, but it's because of that it works. In the old days, MTV was ye kya hai. All the little graphics that we would do in the middle, people be ye kya malum nahi MTV hai.
So this is a section that they have on 101 India called Series, which he's talking about, which is 101 Dinner with the Dons. There's also Magnificent Motorcycle Men.
Yeah.
So that's something to do with you being Parsi and, treating them.
I don't even know how to ride a bike.
What are you saying? What kind of a shame?
What
a shame. What a disgrace to the
community. So, Motorcycle Men was just, it was something we did with UD, and he produced it. So, he was...
So you're actually commissioning shows. Or somebody comes with an interesting idea, they do it for you. Is that the way it works?
We know the spaces we'd like to be in. And it's always nicer if you find evangelists of that space, they do it for you, because they're just more interested and they're just more passionate about it. So if I went and did something on motorbikes, it would be very different.
Correct.
So when Yuri came along and said, are you guys thinking of doing something on motorbikes? I said, yeah, but we don't want to do the same old stuff. So he said, look, let's look at motorcycling culture. And so he was firstly talking about, the guys who restore bikes and stuff. But I wanted to make it slightly broader overall. So Magnificent Motorcycle Men, which is a bit of a mouthful, but try saying that when you're drunk.
Yeah, correct.
So that will become our sort of motorcycle lifestyle show. We'll look at old motorcycling clubs. It'll look at motorcycle journeys. It'll look at like restoring bikes. And we'll see how that goes. A lot of these things are hit and miss. If people like to see more of that, and if we can get sponsorship, we'll continue it. Sadly, it's all about sponsorship.
Yeah,
and clients are a little strange.
Yeah, we're going to come back and talk about Hip Hop Homeland, and these are the guys who first pioneered this whole rap hip hop movement. With the Bantais. Cyrus Oshidar in the house. These days by Rudimental, 9:36 live. Back in a couple of minutes. These days, Rudimental, Jess Glynn, Macklemore. Cyrus Oshidar is here, and we're streaming video now live. Only if you're not driving, on Instagram at HRISHIKAY. Still streaming live audio, www.onecast.in, numeral 1cast.in, across the nation in 94.3 Radio 1 on your radio sets.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishikesh. Radio 1.
Well, now it's cool to talk about the hip-hop movement that's coming out of, JB Nagar and Sahar and, Vivin Divine and Raftar and Nazi and all of that. But you guys were the first to unearth that, and Hip Hop Homeland tells some really interesting stories. So talk to me about this counterculture movement, which has now been brought into the mainstream, courtesy a movie called Gully Boy. Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens with that. We've been looking for things to cover. What I'd noticed, and I think there was a lot of different kinds of kids from all over India was suddenly rapping, and I found it kind of strange, because initially I used to think that this is a very Western sort of American subculture,
Brooklyn, Harlem kind of subculture.
And there were a lot of the old peak caps and back to front and all that kind of stuff happening, but also within that there was a lot of original voices. And what was fantastic about it was that young kids were singing about the issues that impacted their immediate environment. Yeah. And for young kids to have a voice is anyway what any youth culture should be all about, and we should be encouraging that rather than stifling that. But of course we like to hold a foot ruler and rap their knuckles because we think they should behave. So hip-hop, I think, was born of a need to have a voice, to be able to say things, and I think the internet allowed them to share that, and it started building its own subculture. So, I mean, it's not that we invented it or anything, we just picked up on something that was clearly happening. And that's where Hip-Hop Homeland was born. And I think, what we did is we went to the Northeast, we went to, the Mumbai, and we will continue with that, even though now hip-hop seems to have become the sort of, catchphrase for everything. No one sponsored it. We went to some of the biggest sponsors, and I think that's the biggest mistake they made, because clients were saying really stupid things like "Nekin wo F word bolta hai," or "Nahi, he's thinking about an issue. No, we can't talk about beef." So, at the end of the day, you have to talk about things, because if you don't talk about things, then you're not a democracy. So, but for clients to sponsor outspoken kids became an issue. And for us, it was more about the underground hip-hop. It's not really about mainstream, not this sort of misogynistic sex and booze and cars and all that sort of stuff, even though that also works. But it was more about kids and issues. And I think a lot of clients had an issue with issues, which is kind of dumb. How can you have an issue with people talking about things that really matter? And this is coming from the people. So we suffered from a lack of sponsorship on that, but I think going forward, I'm hoping that there are clients who are smart enough to realize that if you really want to connect with young people, you have to be relevant to them, and you have to listen to them, and you have to hear what they have to say. And if you're not going to listen to what they have to say, then you're doing faff. It's just sugarcoating, and that's a lot of what we see is just that. It's just bubblegum and floss and irrelevant garbage, which means nothing to no one, but looks good and it's shiny and happy. How many clients meet to say, "Arey yaar, ek bandana dal de," that doesn't make him hip hop. Ek spray can dal de uske haath mein, and do this. So bas ban gaya hip hop. It's such rubbish. You have to listen to what they're saying, and you have to listen to them in their words, and you don't layer it with what you think. That's not your job. Your job is to let them have a voice. So Hip Hop Homeland was born of that. And we even had one live event. It was something we paid for ourselves, and nobody sponsored it for some reason, and we're going to do it again. And we just hope that some client somewhere is brave and smart enough to say, "Oh, this is a movement, and there's something that we can do with this."
Listen, you do funny well. Everybody knows that. And there's an entire section on the 101india.com site which is funny. There's
very little. We haven't actually done that so much.
Yeah, you haven't explored that so much, you feel. So is that an area where you're really looking to delve deeper into, or do you think that we're not funny anymore?
Well, maybe we're not relevant anymore. Yeah. That's the main thing, not me. So there's also a huge explosion in comedy. And it's all stand-up comedy. And there's some smart kids saying some smart things when they're allowed to about all kinds of issues. Yeah. So it's being done. And if someone is already doing that, why do we want to jump on the same bandwagon? So instead we tried the old MTV formula, after spending so many years there, of saying, okay, let's create some characters. So we created a guy called, he's a Daku, but he gives you tuition in grammar. Yeah, so Daku tuition we tried, and I remember one of the guys who watched it, one of the viewer comments was, "This video, spelled wrong, gave me eye cancer." so for some reason it didn't do too well then, but we may re-upload it now. So we're not known for humor, we're known for sort of stories that are left of Swenter and sort of creating properties around things like subcultures and, Dinner with the Dons. So we will try humor, but we have to find a space for humor. And maybe Daku tuition was sort of maybe one didn't have enough reach then. Then we did a character called Aunt Edda, which was a sort of auntie from Bandra.
Which is our friend
Jai Rao
Kavi, the drummer, the indiscreet drummer.
Indiscreet. So we might bring him back with his stuffed bra.
I actually had him on the show because Shirin, who handles Shankar's son Lois, couldn't air and this and that, and he came in and he did an incredibly funny show with me.
Jay is very funny. He's very deadpan. He's very funny.
But I don't think he's pushing himself out there as Auntie Edda at all.
No. But I think actually he's funny with more than just one character. So we will get him on, and but the thing is he's drumming all the time. So between our current searching for funding and Jay's drumming career, we will get him on, and we will try it. I think these things work on social media, but with everything else, when you create a brand, you have to find a space for yourself. Sure. So you don't want to do the same old stuff.
Yeah. Okay. final opportunity actually to get any comments in. I'm going to take my phone back from Vinay, who's doing all this filming, and I will get all your messages. So one space, your comment and your name to 53650, the in-studio SMS line. If you've gone and checked out 101 India, Hip Hop Homeland, anything, all these series that he's talking about, let us know, yeah? Even if you haven't liked it, let us know. On Twitter as well as Facebook, it's HRISHIKY. Tweet out with your name, post on the timeline inbox along with your name, and facebook.com/radio1.mum, our official page. Pop a comment in the timeline inbox. You could go down memory lane and tell us what you feel about Gaseous Clay and the Lift Man and all these wonderful characters that Cyrus Oshidar and his team created. One tight slap and all that. Yeah. So we're going to take some messages and back in less than 10 minutes. See ya.
94.3 Radio 1.
Some Matthew Wilder, Break My Stride. 9:55. Cyrus Oshidar is here. More conversation.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishikesh.
Radio 1.
So, man, this mentorship thing, you don't take yourself very seriously.
Well, should I?
You're unassuming, if I could call it that, the cliche. But the fact of the matter is, you walk into ZTV and then you meet, Bhattu, Sunil Bhatyade, and you meet Mane and Manoj Mane, and you walk into, Star, and you find half a dozen guys. All of them say, "Arey baap, Cyrus to baap hai." Cyrus is
They're all running TV and radio channels now.
Yeah, man, they're running. It's impossible to walk into a media house and not find a couple of blokes or gals who turn around and say that you're Big Daddy, you're the Godfather. So how did this all happen? I mean, do you enjoy mentoring first and foremost?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. I think, the thing is that, I'm kind of inquisitive about my environment and the things around me, and I look at things that are different. I look at things that are strange. I look at things that are idiosyncratic. I mean, in the old days, I used to take photographs. I'd, take pictures in India, which I used to find strange. There'd be a blind man begging outside a sunglass shop. I mean, it was all kinds of weird stuff. And with kids like this, I think when you have a clear vision of what you want to do for a brand, you have to share that, or you have to teach them, or you have to at least spend time with them. And because I enjoy what they do anyway, and I can't do what they do, because ultimately, MTV was not me, 101 India is not me, it is a group of people who have a common vision. And that common vision involves a certain degree of, you can call it mentoring, or just, talking to each other and saying, this is how it should be, and this is what I want, and this is why this is right, and this is why this is wrong for us. And these are smart kids, and all of them, I'm happy to say that most of them have gone on and, they're doing great things. Some of them are running channels, some of them are running production houses, some of them are, they're all over.
Okay, come on, messages now. On Twitter, Pooja Punjabi. Thank you, Cyrus Oshidar, for creating unforgettable characters that I remember even after 15 years. Thank you, Hrishikesh, for bringing him onto your show.
Thank you.
I remember one where a guy wearing a lungi reads, "Stick no bills on the wall," pastes a poster that says, "Okay," a Kaval singing, "Agar Rupa ki banyan pehnoge, to Rupa kya pehnegi."
That was a joke I heard.
Scams, foreign hand, traffic, foreign hand, population explosion, foreign hand, one tight slap. I remember growing up watching these fabulous promos. Glad I'm hearing the man on air today. So now tell me about all that. So this is actually a guy you heard. What do you say? Yeah.
Well, the only thing I take real credit for was I wrote all those. So for me it was, and I was allowed to write all those because at that time nobody really knew what MTV was all about. So we had a free hand, as it were. And these were all the spots she's referring to, a one tight slap. And there was, one of them was a politician who got one tight slap at the end of it, and he blamed that on the foreign hand as well. So those were the days when perhaps you could do a little bit more on media than you can now. So it was all part of humor, and I think humor is a powerful sort of tool to criticize, is a powerful tool to point out wrongs, it's a powerful tool to make people think about issues. And One Tight Slap was an example of that. And it was the only way of getting young people to listen, because at the end of the day, they do not want to be preached to. So make them laugh and make a point through that. And that was why One Tight Slap worked.
Nikhil Bhatia, oh man, One Tight Slap, Sai Baba, you sir are a legend. Great to hear of 101 India. Please, we need more loony stuff like that. I grew up on that super nonsense. Sheldon Aranyo, two messages. Awesome listening to you speak with Hrishikesh after such a long time. Remembering the good old days at MTV, your wit and intelligence is sorely missed. I am going to check out 101 India. Did you really put up a post on Alex Kuruvila's cabin saying, quote unquote, don't feed the monkey, just checking facts?
No,
you do that?
Nothing of the sort.
You didn't know?
Absolutely not.
Don't malign him. I'm just joking. But listen, the beginning was advertising, wasn't it? Before you started all this loony-giri.
Yeah. Well, I spent 10 years in advertising. I was in O&M. Then I went to Ambience under LC and Ashok. And then I just got kind of bored with selling things to people and sort of not completely honestly. And then MTV came along. Initially, I was quite scared because it was a new medium and I liked writing print ads. I didn't really enjoy the moving videos. But I took a chance and I really loved it. I mean, I started off in the promos department. I was the only writer. In fact, I wrote almost all the promos for almost 10 years. And then it moved from there to the head of content. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy shows as much. But now with 101india.com, I'm beginning to, because you can create your own shows and you can create your own kind of narrative. And I think India is so rich. I mean, in that, you see the same stuff, I mean, and everything is reality, as I said. Even on news anchors are just never mind, the less said about that.
Yeah. Okay, now Piyush Chaturwal has a question for you. Greyhound racing in the Punjab, I hope it's minus the animal cruelty now, question mark.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we shoot for 2 or 3 days, and I think what we saw was actually quite the opposite, because some of these guys really loved their animals. Now, I can't say that this is a deep dive, because we are 101 India. We go and we cover things that exist. We're not creating greyhound racing. We're just covering what actually exists. But from what we saw and the guys we covered, the main one was a dog called Commander. The dog had a room to himself, which is probably larger than most Bombay flats. He was well fed. He was well looked after. He had a massage all every day. Now I can't say with my hand on my heart that all the dogs were treated like that. But in the old days, it was banned, as I said, because of cruelty to the rabbit. Yeah, and I mean, if you have an issue with greyhound racing, then we should have an issue with people racing as well, and dogs racing and horses racing. And I think it's really a question of individuals and how they look after and love their animals. The ones we met certainly looked after their animals very well as I look after my own dog. So,
Aditya, good morning. Neera Vadwani, good morning. Thank you for shouting out. Ankit, hi. Salman Khan. Samir Attarwala, absolute pleasure listening to the two of you, is what he says. That's all we have time for. We're at the stroke of 10. Cyrus Oshidar, thank you for rolling by, buddy. This has been special.
All the best.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
All the best. See ya. And it's Dire Straits, Heavy Fuel, the last song in this particular hour.